Hello, YouTube. Welcome to the Compound Fracture YouTube channel, where I have a treat in store. This is an oldie, but an amazing-y. A goodie, an amazing-y. It's Railroad Tycoon 3. It's like my favorite style of economic sim that in a railroad game that I've ever seen. It's a railroad game that leans very, very heavily towards the economics. Maybe not the best in terms of actually building the trains, but the best in terms of moving the goods, and I do enjoy goods. Oh my! So let's start with the very, very charming intro. We'll watch the intro together, and we will go from there. So let's do this thing. And the intro didn't work. Okay. Let's try this one more time after turning the intro back on. Sometimes it turns itself off when there's issues. I've already restarted this video once. I'm not going to restart it twice. You're capable of moving forward on your thing. And disable opening video is not turned on. Okay, you know what? Screw it. No intro video. Trust me, it's charming. Get the game yourself, damn it, and watch the intro video because it's amazing. It has a mouse. It has a mouse on a railroad track. And yeah, anything with a mouse. So what we're going to do with this whole series is we're going to play through the campaign mode. We're going to play through it on hard, of course. We've played this game more than enough to play hard mode. And,
well, hello there. It's right good to see you. The museum's supposed to be closed today, but
and we're having some graphical issues.
I was down in the boiler room fixing that darn contraption.
This is the intro movie, but it shouldn't be playing right now.
Seems I'm one of the few geezers left that know
And it has interface elements. Oh, man. This might be a really difficult game to stream, guys. I might have to pull the plug on this one. Let's just see what we can do about this. Okay, we're back to the main menu. Okay, we can do this. It's not quite so buggy as this when you're not trying to stream at the same time.
Well, hello there. It's right good to
Perfect. We're on the scenario selection screen. That's excellent. So there's all of these different rooms here. We have the European room, the Americas, and that's Europe.
Oh, you can try one of these scenarios if you like, but you might find it a sight easier.
Now this team, right before they did this game, they did Tropico, the original Tropico. And this has a lot of the same kind of little bits of humor and good voice acting and stuff like that. So it's really, really nice. 2003, bit difficult on modern systems, whatever. Some of these missions are weird little puzzle game kind of little things, and I don't love those, so I might just choose to skip over them. We'll see. We'll see how we go, but this is going to be a once in a blue moon type of game. Okay, well, thanks for stopping by, Jack Tank. It is indeed happening. Enjoy your lurking. So we'll start with mission number 1, Go West.
This here's about the American West. Well, west of New York City anyhow. You see, the nation hadn't been able to use much of the land west of the Appalachian Mountains because it was just too difficult to move goods to and from those markets. Now, the trains changed all that. Now, the nation had a quick and reliable form of transportation. Go west, the man said. And so they did, by the trainload.
All right, we're going to be going west. West is, after all, best. Even if in this case, west is only Buffalo, New York, which doesn't seem all that west from my perspective. I'm in Vancouver, so, you know, seems pretty east to me, but you know, west is, I suppose, a relative term, like all terms are relative terms. So here are our conditions. We want to get a gold medal. We want to get a gold medal in every one of these damn missions. That's important. So the Erie Canal has just opened between the Great Lakes. So the Erie Canal, for those people who don't know the history, the Erie Canal runs from New York City, like from the, the Madison River? Hudson River. From the Hudson River to the Great Lakes. And that allowed basically a all-season ship access to the interior, to Chicago and Detroit and all those lovely, lovely rusty towns. So it was a big deal. And this is building a railway along the canal. So we need to connect Boston to Buffalo before 1856 in order to win this scenario. A lot of scenarios in this game involve a great deal of like stock market play and trying to build personal wealth and run your competition out of business mercilessly. And that's not really the case in this first mission. It's just about connecting track. So we are going to do that. We are going to connect all the track. This is our map. Right here, we've got this very, very 2003 graphics. It's good. So I'm going to go through some important stuff just looking at the map before we move on. Cities grow over time. You can see by these star ratings what kind of populations they have. Supply and demand all comes from buildings, right? So like finished goods go to housing, which is like these little guys here. And you can see if we click on production info, they demand all of these basic goods in each house. And this is kind of the essential unit of the game is these things. Now, one difference, oh yeah, it's so charming. Hello, Twisted Officer. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry about the quick stream a couple of days ago. Hopefully won't do that again, but anyway. Right, so one thing that's really different between this game and other railroad games is passengers are not very good in the early game at all here. Like Railroad Tycoon 2, for instance, you just want to build passenger lines first and then deal with freight later. This is kind of the opposite because passengers actually have a destination. Imagine that. If you've got a passenger in New York City, maybe he wants to go to Boston, maybe he wants to go to Buffalo, maybe he wants to go somewhere else, but he's not just going to go wherever you put him, you know? He has to go to his destination. So if you only have a few cities hooked up, that sucks. So we need to think about freight, we need to think about industry right off the bat. So if we go to overview mode here, this is where it gets really cool. You can see these little cars along the map, right? These are the movement of goods. Goods in this game move on their own, even without being... Oh, thank you for the subscription, Slick Sacks. I really, really appreciate the subscription. That's amazing. And you launched an emote fireworks? Oh, man, I wish I had, like, pop-ups enabled. I have to get to that, for sure. So, anyway... these are cargo moving across the map. This is all based on supply and demand. The higher the demand, the more the price rises locally within an area. The higher the supply, the more the price falls, as you might imagine. And goods will move, especially along rivers and coastlines, on their own. But as they move on their own, they will incur freight value, like freight penalties. So they'll get more expensive as they move, basically. So, like, for instance, if we click coal, we see that this is coal mining country out here. These pink triangles mean that coal is supplied by these coal mines, and they're moving along the rivers to Rochester and Syracuse and so on, but the price is rising. Red means low prices, green means high prices. If we go to meat, for instance, it's almost all green because there's more demand than there is supply. Here we have a meat packing plant that has some supply. However, if we look at this, we see, oh, no, never mind. I was thinking that it wasn't going to produce meat. It does produce meat because there is livestock nearby that's heading to it. So the livestock gets to the meat packing plant makes the meat, and so on. And it's all initially set up here. This is probably a better example. You see how here, this cattle ranch is, in this area, the livestock's relatively cheap. It's yellow. And as it moves this way, it gets, oh, yeah. So red's cheap. I was thinking opposites, Phil. As it moves this way, it gets more and more expensive until it gets to New York, where it's actually really expensive for this plant. And this plant, therefore, isn't making much profit. You can see here the revenue, $735, and the material cost is really tanking the profitability. So what we need to look for to start out this game is economic opportunities. We need to look for places where there is a supply but not much demand, where we can buy up industry. This is interesting to me. There's a lot of logs up here and not a lot of so okay, let's take a step back. These logging camps produced both pulpwood and logs. This lumber mill demands logs and paper, and if we go to paper here, oh right, not paper, sorry, pulpwood. This paper mill demands pulpwood. So here we see that these logging camps, which we could theoretically purchase at and you can purchase things at a discount if they aren't very profitable. So that's a great way to do it. It's like the Yeah, a load of depth, for sure. The economic sim in this game is amazing. Like, imagine, oh, what's his face? Big rail, who is the richest man in the world? Oil. Who was the oil baron? Like, the big oil baron. There was, like, Carnegie was the steel, and then there was Vanderbilt. No, Vanderbilt was railroads. There were 3 of them. Why do I forget his name? Richest man in the world, like 150 years ago. Anyway, whatever the case, what he did was there were a lot of oil wells around Ohio, right, at the time. And there was very little infrastructure set up around the oil wells. So he bought up all these oil wells super cheap. And then he built up the oil wells and then created refineries and created a market for oil in the cities in order to drive up the price of the oil wells after having paid pennies to get the rights back when there was no market for them. And that's the kind of thing we want to do. We want to buy up supplies cheap, and then we want to find ways to increase the value of what we've purchased. This is really interesting up here. There's a lot of wool being produced, and there's, by the way, it's somewhere between random distribution and set in these maps. So there will be regions that will produce various goods every time, but the exact number of what is available will change map to map. So you have to, so there's an element of random chance here. And I think in this case, the fact that there's 4 wool farms, 4 sheep farms up here, means that we have an opportunity up in Portsmouth and Concord to maybe build some clothing factories. So first up, we're going to, Uglyistic with a raid! Oh my, and GDOM, welcome. We are playing Railroad Tycoon 3, and it's incredible. So let's start a company. That's the first thing we have to do. We want maximum initial investment so that we can put stuff in. Now, player wealth matters a lot here. And you can, sometimes you'll want to like do no outside investment or very low and a lot of player investment so you can build up your personal wealth and control all the stock of your company. But in this case, personal wealth is not part of the mission objectives. So we want a lot of outside investment. We want to just do maximum stuff here. We'll choose a company logo, like a fleur-de-lis or something. We're almost in Quebec, pretty close. An eagle. Okay. Eagleistic. Shout out! Eagleistic rail. Okay, that's a shout out to Uglyistic right there. Eagleistic rail. That's what we are. So, yes, wrong game. It would be nice to be yeeted off a theme park, though. You'll have to be yeeted off a railroad train or a locomotive instead. What about these grain farms? These grain farms also have very limited demand. We could consider alcohol. Alcohol is a really good investment because it is demanded directly by the towns. Like this house, you see, it needs alcohol right here. Right here. Needs alcohol. Also needs clothing, but it needs a lot of alcohol. Alcohol tends to be in high demand. So first off, we're very early in the game. We're at 1840, and not all businesses will be available to be built at this point. So what we want to do is go to, where is it? Yeah, it's this. Non-station buildings here, and check on what's available to us. So the 2 things that I'm looking at are textile mills and breweries. I think breweries might be the best bet here, but they're both pretty good. In the long run, we can do both of them. Now let's look at the prices of these farms, because that's a big deal too. So, okay, so these grain farms are selling for 140 each. And I know from experience that's the cheapest they possibly get because the demand's so low. These can go up higher than $1 million later in the game. These are sheep farms, and they're going for 140 as well. Again, the lowest you can possibly get. So we have tons of opportunities here. I think we are going to start with a brewery, but we're going to look to move into clothing very quickly. We're going to make Portsmouth our main beginning newbie sort of area where we're going to start building. And we're going to build close to the ocean because goods can transport along the ocean quite easily. They will make their way to Boston, although at much lower profitability than once we get the railroad going. So we'll put this brewery in here, and then we'll buy these 3 grain farms. Now you'll see that once, okay, so just looking at this grain farm right now, it is losing money every year, which is why it's so damn cheap. But you end up in a bit of a problem where if we only built the, okay, so if we bought the grain farms, but no, back this truck up. If we built the brewery but did not buy the grain farms, right? Then the price of grain would go up as the demand from our brewery brings a lot of grain, has a high demand for grain. And so as the price for grain goes up, the brewery will become less and less profitable over time. But by cornering the market on grain in this area, once the price of grain spikes, we'll still be making the big money because we'll just be making it on our grain farms instead of our brewery. So either way, by controlling the entire supply chain of grain, we can be very successful indeed. Now we have 300,000 left, and I want to do something with that money. We're not at the point of doing rail yet. So one thing I'm considering is buying a couple of these wool farms right away, because sometimes when farms lose money like this, they will, and this one's making just a tiny amount of money, but it's still 140, yeah. If they lose this much money, they eventually go bankrupt, right? And then they disappear from the map forever. And you cannot build primary resources like this. You can only buy them. So I think I'm going to buy these sheep farms right away, the two of them that are closest, in order to make sure that these don't go poof and disappear on us before we can exploit them. I'll want to buy these as well, I think, before we start building rail. But for now, let's press play and see what happens. Now, we can look at the stock market. It doesn't matter quite so much in this scenario. Oh, no. I don't think I'm going to be able to kill those spammers very well because this game does not like being alt-tabbed in and out of. Oh, my company got an anonymous donation? Cool. Well, in that case, very quickly, like right now, we'll be able to buy a third sheep farm. Good stuff. Okay. And the dividend, the directors are forcing us to lower the dividend. Again, we don't care that much about personal wealth. It's not in this campaign, but we have two competitors now. We have James Fisk here, and we have Jay Gould. And it looks like James Fisk has not yet started a railroad, but Jay Gould has. Boston Southern. So Jay Gould's railroad goes from Boston to Providence. Now, if Jay Gould, for instance, were to connect from Boston up to Portsmouth, he could be shipping our booze from Portsmouth to Boston, which would be lovely for us. But he'd make a lot of money doing it, and we want that money. We don't want to give it to him. So it's a trade-off. You can use competitors to up your profits quite easily, but that can backfire as well. Okay, so we'll hit play again. We'll see how this goes. You can issue bonds. Actually, let's do that. I want to corner this market as quickly as possible, so I am going to buy the last sheep farm up here, and we'll wait until we have 1.2, like I think it's 1.2, and then we'll almost immediately build ourselves a textile mill. So 1.2 million. Once we get up there, we're doing very well in money. This is actually quite an easy start compared to many of them. Already our brewery is highly profitable, as you can see. And if we look at the cost of grain, it's already spiking. All of this was red before, but the demand is reaching up, as you can see, and it's the grain is becoming very expensive. So here, last year it only made 2,000 already, and it's October now. We've already made 14,000 on this grain this year, 17,000, and so on. So having purchased this for 140,000, we're making insane returns already. And the brewery will keep rising the price of grain as we go. Yeah, I wish I could alt-tab out. I'm worried that if I alt-tab out to kill that spammer there, it's going to crash everything on me and create all sorts of graphical glitches and so on. So I'm going to leave it alone for now, and if it keeps going, I'll do what I got to do, but we'll see. Okay, so investors are pleased. The investor reaction matters a whole hell of a lot because, as I mentioned before, a lot of these scenarios, individual wealth is super important, and you can leverage debt, buy against margins to increase your portfolio size, but sometimes you end up in trouble and you end up in a negative equity situation, and then the bank can foreclose on your personal wealth, and then you're in trouble. So you want to watch your stock price very closely. We're the only railroad right now that has no railroad, but that'll change. We're conquering industry first. This is more an industrial game than a railroad game, despite its name, Railroad Tycoon. So I see we can take out a second loan. Once we hit 700, and there it is, I'm going to issue bonds like that. We could actually take out a third already. We're doing very well. This is going better than average for this scenario, I'm pretty sure. So textile mill, and that's all based on the luck of the draw of what was initially available. We'll place our textile mill right there. Oh, we're not quite at enough cash. 4 more thousand. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, textile mill. So that will start rapidly increasing the price of the wool. And we'll be able to watch it here. Oh, there's another sheep farm that's just popped up. So we want to buy this for sure before it spikes in value. That might be worth another loan. But I think we'll quickly be up to 140. So you'll be able to see this yellow sort of slowly expanding out that way and bringing the price up. I am concerned that this might rise in value before we buy it. Doesn't look like it, though. 110. Yeah, am I allowed to do mods yet? I probably am. That's probably one of the things I could get with my what do you call it? Is it affiliate or whatever the status is? I probably get mods now. So I'll absolutely do mods. And Twisted, you're welcome as well. There's quite a few people, you know, Twisted, GDOM, Ugly, out of the people who I've seen in this chat. There's probably, I'm sure I'm missing someone, but there's a bunch of people that would be great mods. Okay, so soon we will start thinking about doing our railroad. We have an initial, oh, here we go. The board of directors doesn't think I can pay the dividend because we are now in debt. Not just in debt in terms of bonds, but actually liquidity, no liquidity. And we don't really care much because we don't actually want to pay dividends right now because we're not worried about personal wealth for this particular scenario. So let's just carry on. We should make lots of money. This wool is actually, as I look here, there's so much supply of wool that our demand isn't cutting much into it. So I think the next thing I'm going to want to do is upgrade. Investors are only somewhat pleased here. I'm going to issue more stock. Yeah, let's issue stock. That's free for us because we're not worried about personal wealth. Then we will issue another bond. I'm going to pause the game, issue a bond. And that should be enough to upgrade the textile mill. You can upgrade for less than the initial purchase costs. And you can see last year we were not profitable. But this year we're going to be. And this will double production for an investment that's far less than double the cost. So we'll do that. And next thing we'll do is, actually, I bet we can get more bonds. Yes, we can. So we're going to build our first rail. And we want to connect up to Boston as well. So we have a choice. We can either connect to his station, and we'll have to pay him. I'll turn on the grid so you can see there's elevation in this game, just like workers and resources. If we connect up and use his station, we'll have to pay him for the right to do that. Or we can build our own station, which will be a little tricksy because there isn't that much space. So let's see if we can get our own station going first. That would be ideal. It looks like we can. It looks like there's enough space for the area to fill all the available buildings. We'll tell it to lock position so that we can get it exactly where we want. We want somewhere like this. So now there's our own station in Boston, and that's very nice. These are, this is an option, by the way, all these zeros and ones. It shows the gradient of the track that we're on. It's important to have a good gradient because trains slow the fuck down when you got too big of a hill. So I'm going to be very careful laying track and go through here. You can tear down buildings to put track where there are otherwise buildings. But when you do that, you have to pay for the buildings. So you'll have to like buy the houses, and that's pretty expensive. So I'm hoping we can get enough track to get a nice train from Boston to Portsmouth right away. I'm pretty sure we're not allowed to build unconnected track. Oh, maybe we can. Some scenarios you can build unconnected track, others you can't. So when you can't build unconnected track, you have to like just start at one point and go from there rather than having individual, well, you know what unconnected track means. That's pretty obvious. So I'm going to put a slightly smaller station here, a medium station. Oh, but it's telling me I can't do it, probably because of unconnected track. Okay. So now we know. And go there. Now we can build a station. We'll go to flexible, and we'll place it right here. By the way, how about the music in this? It's amazing. Don't give the mod to Uglyistic. He'll become mad with power. Maybe I enjoy madness. Maybe I want Uglyistic to go mad with power. He'll do all the squats, and he'll squat you right out of the channel. It'll be great. Okay. Enough of that. So we're gonna build a train. Add train. Portsmouth Boston Junction, which is our Boston station. So we can only do a Norris because this is really early in the history of railroading, and Norrises really degrade quickly in terms of their speed with more cars and more grade. They're not very underpowered. That's okay. We do not want to say any cargo. That would be silly. So we're going to do custom consist. And going from Portsmouth to Boston, how am I going to do this? I'm going to say we want specifically, where are we? Clothing, and alcohol, and then any cargo, which we'll grab. So we'll make sure we grab at least the clothing and the alcohol, and then any cargo. I'm going to tell it to do minimum 0 cars, so it will still go even if we can't fill these up. Now, you can force it by saying, make sure you bring at least these 4 or whatever, but we're not going to do that. And another thing about this game, right, is you can't actually force the trains to haul any cargo that isn't profitable. If the cargo isn't profitable, you cannot bring it, which is sometimes a pain because you'll want to supply your industry with goods, sometimes even if the goods are too expensive to be a profitable route. But you can't always do that. You have to rely on the market here. So, okay, so that is what we want in Portsmouth. And in Boston, we're just going to stick with this, actually, up to 4 cars of anything from Boston to Portsmouth, because we don't really care about that. So we're going to buy the train. Then we need a couple more things. We need maintenance here, maintenance depot. Put it right next to the station, because trains have to stop to use it. So we want them stopping before they've accelerated. And we'll do a service tower as well. And then we'll start it. And one thing that's neat about this game that I actually really appreciate is you don't have to fool around with semaphores or any sort of fancy railroad stuff. You can either build a single or a double track. And after building the single or the double track, if trains want to pass each other, it just means that one of the trains stops. And you can prioritize some trains over others, so the one with the lower priority is going to be the one that stops to let the other one pass. So it will cost you. But you see there, we made $150,000 out of that particular route, and that's because our clothing and booze is worth a lot of money in Boston. And we're making a ton of cash now. Our factories will, so okay, take this textile mill, for instance. If we just left it to its own devices, up here in Portsmouth, soon we'd have an oversupply of clothing, right? And the price of clothing would fall dramatically, and then our profits would fall. But if we're hauling stuff to Boston, that won't happen. So we're going to be making a ton of cash. And actually, if we pause again and just look at this train here, loading in Portsmouth, it's loading with only, okay, yeah. Clothing, alcohol, produce, and clothing. And it looks like alcohol is a much bigger moneymaker right now than clothing on this route. There's probably a clothing plant somewhere down here, if I'm not mistaken. Let's check. Yes, there's already a textile mill in Boston. So that's why we're getting lower profits to Boston. But not only do these houses demand clothing, but there's also ports. And ports and warehouses are another important bit of the game. They create sort of an artificial demand based on the scenario. So hey, let's look at this. Eagleistic Rail. We are way, way, way better than our competitors, and we now have more track mileage. We have soared ahead of them. I'm going to sort of manipulate this a little bit because I want to become rich so that I can maybe buy competitors out if it becomes important to do so. It's probably not going to be important, but either way, I'm going to buy some of my own stock because I expect to continue performing well. I'm buying on margin here, which is a bit scary. I'm also going to maybe buy some competitor stock. We'll just get a little share of both of their companies, which will drive their price up, which isn't ideal, but in the long run, it might let us put them out of business, which we want. So now I'm going to turn this rail around. We're going to build out to Worcester. Worcester? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not a masshole. I'm not a masshole. There we go. Yeah, I know. I just insulted you, Boston. I'm from Vancouver. We got like a hockey rivalry. Go, just deal with it. Deal with it, Boston. Deal with it. Okay. So I'll put a little station, maybe even a tiny one. I don't know. Yeah, tiny one works. Okay. And then we'll also run this immediately to Hartford. We'll take a loan if we have to, and we probably will. Don't know why my gradient numbers aren't working. There they are. So we want to kind of snake around this little mountain here. Because we don't want big numbers. Big numbers are bad. A lot of the time I see other Let's Players playing this. Well, not that very many people do, but the ones who do, they just seem to run track wherever and they don't worry about the gradient, and that's just such a huge mistake. You have to snake around the hills. Make sure that you're not doing anything too steep. So we will need some money to make it as far as Hartford, and that's okay. We'll issue some bonds again. We can go up to 10,000, assuming the banks are willing to issue us the credit, and they are, because we're making tons of money off our industry. So, okay. We're gonna go, and see, here's a big hill, and I don't think there's really gonna be any way around that. We're gonna have to. Oh boy, that doesn't look good at all. Fortunately, there's an undo button. This undo button is like a lifesaver. You can undo as long as you don't get out of the track building mode, like we did a minute ago. So I'm going to go around this way and see if I can find a way to make this a little bit more good. A little bit more goodly. Trains will slow down on that hill, but we can minimize it as much as possible, and that's a good thing. So, again, they'll seriously slow down here, but some things cannot be avoided. Then we'll run across there and build a station in Hartford. And unfortunately, these buildings over here, this church and this tool and die, are not within range of the station. So just like any other spot on the map, they'll have to move across land. So like the products of this tool and die, or the iron that we might eventually bring here, will have to take the river and get to the station itself, which will take off some value, but that's okay. So let's build a second train. Oh, look at all this money we're making. I like to, if anything, undersupply the trains, because if you build too many trains on a route, that will cut into your profits in the long run. We're just going to go up to 6 cars, and we're going to say all stations. Just let it do its thing, however it wants. So that'll cut into your profits in the long run, right? Because once the supply-demand curves equal out, because you're delivering all the cargo between the cities, so the price evens out, that'll cut into your margins. So you're better off actually delivering less products, but keeping the margins super high. As I said before, I love the economic sim in this game. It is beautiful. So we'll put in some more maintenance and towers and stuff. Maintenance station and water tower right in the middle here. And immediately, now our credit rating's down to B. The prime rate is at 6.0 right now. And I should probably explain this. There's economic cycles in the game, and the economic cycles do a lot of things. They will, good economic conditions will raise your stock price. Bad economic conditions will lower it. That's pretty obvious. But it'll also affect the interest rate. So in the best economic conditions, the prime rate goes down to 5%. The worst, it goes all the way up to 10%. Then your interest rate is based on a combination of the prime rate and your credit rating. Our credit rating kind of sucks. But if we paid off these loans here and then issued them again, we could improve our credit rating and then take advantage of the good economic times to get low interest loans. 10% interest is actually quite a bit. It's enough to make a big difference in your profits. Oh, you died stupidly too, Ugly. Oh, man. It can't be any more stupid than all of my deaths. I'm sure of that. I think the first thing we need to do is concentrate on getting to New York City, because that's where all the money will be. And then we might do an express train between Boston and New York as well. So let's let the game run a bit. I'm going to get up to the point that I can at least pay off 2 loans, and I think we're there. So I'm going to pay off the most expensive loans. There's a 12%er here. I want to pay off that and an 11%er. And then we'll see about issuing more. No, it's still going to offer us 10%. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to pay off more loans right now. I am going to invest a little bit more in my competitors' businesses. Unfortunately, our purchasing power is very low here compared to our cash. We're deeply in the negatives in cash, and our purchasing power sucks. So if there is an economic collapse right now, we could be in deep, deep trouble. We could be in danger of losing all of our liquidity. We don't care too much because that is not a priority in this particular mission. But where we care about it is if we want to buy out competitors later. I don't think we necessarily do. Like, our competitors are just doing their thing up here. They're not being that successful. That is one thing, by the way, about hard mode as well. All the rules of hard mode apply to the AI as well as to the human. So the AI is not generally very good at navigating the difficulty, and they're going to struggle. But that's okay. So we'll repay that. How are we doing? Our credit rating is up to BBB. Once that gets in the A range, I'm going to consider refinancing all these bonds. We're at A now. We've split 2 for 1. That's great. That'll help our stock price in the long run. Investors are now excited about my performance, and they increased my salary. Good stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the financials again here. A lot of this game is spent in the financial menus, which I like. I don't know if you guys do. You can see here, by the way, that most of our expenses are debt repayment right now. Or interest, rather. Not even repayment, just interest. And that really, really adds up. So, yeah. Let's refinance. 7% interest right now is pretty damn decent. So I'm going to take a 7% loan, repay an 11. Take a 7, repay a 10. We're up to AA credit rating. We'll probably be... Oh, it's still 7. Until we get up to AAA, it'll be 7. Okay. All right, so now all of our loans are at 7%. Now, I'm going to keep on issuing bonds because our goal this game is to get all the way to Buffalo, New York. So getting to Buffalo is the priority, not keeping out of debt. And so we should be able to take, like, a ton of loans. And yes, the interest rate is higher now, but that's okay. And that's the maximum the bank will loan to us because our credit rating is now below B. So we're not gonna be able to keep doing this. Damn, I'm sorry that your laser boy died. That's awful. Permadeath is such a double-edged sword in games. It sucks when you die, but it's like way more fun as long as you're not dying. And if you're anything like me, you rage quit sometimes. It's good. So we're using this $5.5 million that we have to try to buy our way all the way to at least New York City. We might keep going from there. Now let's just double check our mission goals. How long do we have to get to Buffalo? Briefing. 1856. So we have 12 more years to get to Buffalo to get the gold, and we can do that. No problem. This is the very first mission of the game. It's not all that difficult. Man, this music. So good. So folksy. Okay, so connecting up Bridgeport. And then we're going to carry on. It's interesting that neither of my competitors set up shop in New York City. That's kind of unusual. Usually at least someone takes New York City because it's just such a big population center. A lot of room to make money here. Okay, so I don't really need to go this direction. We don't need it to supply our industry. So I'm going to try to curve around really quickly to head up towards Buffalo right away. Like maybe this way. That seems good. We'll build a nice big station in New York here. Perfect. Hey, by the way, in an ideal world, I would be building a lot of hotels and a lot of stuff in these cities as well to service passenger industry and just build up a lot of stuff to increase my profits along the road. But we don't really care about that right now because it's really not that important for this scenario. Maybe building this bridge was a mistake. Maybe I should have just gone up from here, straight up the Hudson. But oh well, it's fine. We'll just build another bridge. It'll only be expensive. It's fine. So add another train. This one will go New York to Bridgeport to Hartford to Bridgeport. Again, up to 6 cars, all stations, exit, build. And then we're going to add another train, and this one is only going to go from Boston to New York. It's only going to do up to 4 cars at each station and express only. So that's mail and passengers. And mail and passengers, unlike freight, it demands speed. It needs to go very, very quick in order to get the maximum amount of money. So we're going to build this like so, and then we're going to go here and set the priority. Where's the priority? Oh, man, I forget how to do this. Here's our... Oh, right. How do we do this? Train list? Oh, here it is. Yeah. This one is going to be high priority. So when it crosses with any of the other trains, it's going to like speed along past them. So here we have like only passengers and mail in this one. And I see it's left without any passengers or mail because the demand's only going to build up once people know the cities are connected. That's when they'll start wanting train tickets. They don't want them yet. So we actually made a bit of a mistake. We're going to tell it to only leave these stations when they have at least 2 cars in the future. But for now, it's going to go empty and not ideal. Whatever, it's fine. So we still have 4 million. We're going to keep building track. Now, we could either go down this valley or we could recross the Hudson. I think we're going to recross the Hudson. Kind of silly to go one way just only to go the other a few minutes later, but whatever. You don't need to be super efficient. This particular map is easy enough that we can make little mistakes like that and not be too worried. So we're going to do a stop at Poughkeepsie. Poughkeepsie? Oh, place names. You don't hear, like, upstate New York small town names very often, so. The other thing, by the way, is trains cost more, or rail costs more to build on a grade than it does level. So, like, winding around mountains and stuff is really, really important for multiple reasons. You do not want to go straight over hills. Oh, I turned the wrong way. Fortunately, we can still back up this time because we want to go to Buffalo. We're going to finish this scenario real quick, I'm pretty sure here. Let's see. And again, over here, it's tricky. We could either go up here, that looks bad, or we could go across the river, or just maybe snake along the edge of the river. That seems pretty good. Oops, won't let me do that. Track laying does get a little bit fiddly. That's the big problem with this game. Like its single biggest issue, I think, is that track laying is fiddly in mountainous areas like this. It's hard to get it to work how you want it to. Maybe we should have crossed the river earlier. I think so. I think I'm going to take this back and we'll cross the river. That did not work at all the way I wanted it to. Okay. Here. This is quite awkward here. Maybe we should do this mountain pass. I mean, honestly, I could be a little bit less... Yeah, that's just not going to work. It's not going to work at all there. I could be a little bit less picky in this area simply because the scenario only requires us to connect Buffalo. It doesn't really require us to make it an efficient route or anything. So let's just stop worrying quite so much about making this perfect, and we'll just get it done. Get her done. Okay. This way. We might actually have enough money to just finish off the mission right here, right now, without doing anything else. Oh, this is nice. We have a lot more room on this side of the river. So we're going to cross again, I think, if we can make it work. There it is. That seems fine. Okay. I like it. So we're almost at Utica. Home of the Utica Comets. And the amazing Utica Memorial Auditorium. See, I know something about upstate New York. At least where it comes to hockey. Past the home of the Syracuse Chiefs, you know? It's good. It's good. I got my knowledge. Keep going. Rochester's next. All right. Rochester. Home of the Americans, I'm pretty sure. So we're out of money finally. I don't think the game's going to let me get more loans. No, it isn't. So that's okay. Did we build any stations along the route? No, we really didn't, did we? Let's issue some more stock in that case. Get another 500,000 up, and we'll build a couple stations, and we'll set up a new line here. I don't know how important it is to actually make any more money right now. We might have enough from what we already got. In fact, we probably do, but oh well. We'll just do a New York to Poughkeepsie to Albany line. Make sure we build the maintenance facilities. That's important. So, New York, Poughkeepsie, Albany. Done. Okay. Press play. This will make lots of money, too. One good thing about all this mountainous terrain, by the way, is that goods have a real trouble moving across mountainous terrain on their own. So if you can navigate mountains, you can make a ton of cash moving goods across. So Utica's quite spread out for some reason. I'm going to use a big station here, even though it seems kind of silly to do so, being a relatively small place. Syracuse is going to have a smaller station. Hey, speed record, the Portsmouth Flyer. Good stuff. That's probably that express train, I'd imagine. Oh, no, it isn't. It's the first one we ever built. It's moving alcohol and clothing. Okay, cool. So one more train. There. Again, up to 6, all stations. We're just going to power through the rest of this mission. We're almost done. We can issue a few more bonds now. Boom time's ahead. That's excellent. That'll improve the interest rate of the new bonds, and it'll probably let us get all the way up to... no, not quite. Not quite up to the full 10 million, but that's okay, because like we're basically at Buffalo now. So I think this scenario is going to be done very, very soon. Maybe that was a silly way to put this line, but I don't really care, because we're almost done. Following the Erie Canal. All right. There's Buffalo. One more train. Oh, one more station and then one more train. Boston and Buffalo linked to the future! Eagleistic rail ties Boston and Buffalo together. Oh, joy. Let's just do this even though we don't have to. One more train just to finish it off. One more train to rule them all. So I do want to like jump to a bit of a conclusion before we end this scenario here. I'm going to go back to very fast, and we're going to very quickly see a victory screen pop up. The key, there it is, gold medal. The key to doing well in this scenario had nothing to do with running rail, had nothing to do with setting up trains. The key to being good in this scenario is the initial industry we bought, because that gave us the profitability to be able to take out the loans. And then once we took out the loans, we were able to build the railroad. So this game... and boy, did we ever build a lot of railroad. I'm going to keep playing the game for a second just to show it off a bit here. You'll notice our competitors still only have 2 cities connected. If we go to this, where is it? This screen, we can view, here's our revenue and earnings per share. I'm just going to pause it here. We're earning like $13.81 per share. Our stock price has like gone way up. Total, we have 96,000 shares outstanding. So our stock has split several times over. We're doing great. Meanwhile, our competitors, far fewer shares, far lower stock price, no earnings basically at all, really. This one is losing major money very fast. And it's because they tried to go straight into railroads. You need industry in this game. You want the railroads to help your industry, not the industry to help your railroads. And that's where it's different from like all other railroad games I've ever played. Other railroad games are like, you build the railroad and you make your money off the railroad primarily. And then you build industry so that your railroad has things to ship. This is very much the opposite. So, I don't know. I don't know how to leave the mission now because I told it to keep playing. Oops. I might just have to like tell it to go to the campaign screen, I guess. Sure. So let's go to the campaign screen.
Great job. Don't know if I could have done better myself. Now, with that important link in place, I do believe there's a tidal wave of folks getting ready to follow the railroad west into America's newly opened heartland.
Newly opened heartland. All right. This seems like a good place to end this YouTube episode for this first Go West mission. We're gonna do a new episode for each mission instead of my usual new episode every hour thing. So bye-bye, YouTube. We'll have another mission up real soon. Yes, we will.
And touch one of